Welcome, everybody, to the Rex for Racket Sports webinar. I am pleased to announce and introduce Mr. Eddie Talk, who is the CEO of Rex Roundtables, and Frank Gingrich, who is a longtime racket sports industry veteran, in addition to a fitness and wellness veteran and a Rex Roundtable member. So we're thrilled to have you guys with us today. Thank you for joining us. And we will run through just some high-level stuff about what Rex Roundtables is, why it's important in the racket sports industry today, and how we're really going to see this benefiting the future of what racket sports is. Eddie, do a quick introduction of yourself, if you don't mind, and tell us really what the crux of Rex Roundtables is.
Well, thanks, Brian, and thanks for doing this. I think this is an exciting opportunity for all the racket sports professionals out there to help grow themselves personally, grow themselves professionally, and grow their business. This is my 43rd year in the fitness industry. I started when I was four. Um, but for 21 years, I owned a sales, marketing, and management consulting company and always sent my best clients to join a Rex Roundtable. The Rex Roundtables were started in 1989. Rick Caro, one of the founders of URSA, which is now HFA, brought two high-level consultants in that were doing consulting to American Airlines Board of Directors, Domino's Pizza Board of Directors, and some other pretty big companies, and wanted to really take the health and fitness industry and racket industry to a whole nother level. By doing that, they started four different roundtables, many of which were clients of mine. In 2008, I became their succession plan and took over. We grew the company thanks to a great team you'll see that I have and great members that we have, from four roundtables at that time to 16 today in the US, four in Australia, four in Italy, and one big international group. Um, we're committed to helping you grow. And I can tell you that from all the years of working as a consultant, I still get asked to do consulting, and I tell them, look, instead of getting one source of reference and one source of knowledge, join a roundtable where you're going to get 15 other peers to help you, and we'll still help you as well. And that's the fastest way. If you do the research on learning, the fastest way to learn is peer-to-peer learning, not sage on stage expert to sitting in the audience. So that's what this is all about. The strength isn't about going it alone. It's about who's at your table, gaining that trust. And, alone you go faster, but together you go farther. And that's really the goal of what we want to do.
And so just tell me what's a fundamental of a roundtable. So it started in fitness and wellness. That's where that was the genesis of it. And now with wellness really being the umbrella for all industries, including racket sports and others. But tell me about what a roundtable looks like.
So a typical roundtable is 15 individuals that don't compete. They meet three times a year in person for 2.5 to 3 days. No competitors in the room, brutal honesty, complete confidentiality. They share in between. It's not just going to three events a year, like you may go to three different conferences a year. Every group stays connected literally 24/7. On an average day, I talk to 5 to 10 Rex members, not just the ones in my group. And what they do in between, some stay connected on monthly Zoom, some are on Slack, some use email and phone calls, and every group decides their own cadence and what they feel comfortable with. For example, three of the groups I use I work with, they're on group chats on text, and we have 5 Zooms a year. And I can tell you one of the groups is so active that typically at least 4 days a week, my phone is lighting up, all in a good way. And they're
Right.
sharing the big stuff, they're sharing the little stuff, they're sharing happy birthday, happy Mother's Day, happy Father's Day, all that kind of stuff. Plus, hey, what about this decision? I'm thinking about hiring this. This is one of my strategies. Can we set a time to talk? Those are things that are priceless that you're not going to get at any conference. You get sound bites at a conference, good ideas, but you don't get the detail behind it.
Yeah. And just maybe walk through a little bit more about the proven track record. And you guys have done this is kind of the history, but you've also done some research, which we'll show in just a second. But talk through this, Eddie, just about the success and the retention numbers, which I think are very, very impressive.
Yeah, 1989, 36 years in business. We have about 350 Rex members worldwide that cover about 4,000 plus clubs. And we have over 90% retention rate that the owners don't leave Rex until they sell. The executives and the directors and managers typically don't leave Rex until they change the industry and
Hmm.
leave the industry and get a different job. So, we know that we're doing something right by having this type of retention. And I'll give you a comparison. For 9 years, I was in a roundtable mastermind group myself of 11 other companies that do what we do, industry specific mastermind groups. Everything from the big guys from the auto industry to the big eight accounting firms down to optometrists, dentists, home remodelers. We always had the highest retention rate. Their retention rate was about 50%.
Oh, wow.
And we also charged the lowest dues compared to everybody else. So we have the lowest price, the highest retention rate. The reason is we really focus on getting results and building a culture of creating that second family for you and a resource you're not going to get anywhere else professionally or personally for that matter.
Well, speaking of results, maybe I think what we'll move to now is Frank. You have been you started in the racket sports industry. We'll give credit to your alma mater of Indiana University, but maybe walk through your experience not only with Rex but also in the industry and why this has become so important for you.
Sure. I started, I think Eddie and I played in the same crib when we were 4 years old. I started the same time Eddie did, and we go way back. And so this is all I've ever done. The health and fitness business started in tennis, like you said. And as it evolved, got into the health and fitness business. Majority of my career, I worked with a company that started out called Washington Tennis Services. We changed that and just became WTS International, got into health and fitness and wellness, kept racket sports, but then also became a strong spa and hospitality company. I've worked with a couple of different types of companies over the years. Publicly traded health club company called TSI. Another company was called Sport and Health that is now called One Life. And I own my own company now and have for many years, and called HWLS. And I also own a company called CWA, Club Wellness Advisors. And so my experience is that look, I've gone to conferences. I've been a presenter for many years at what was IRSA, now HFA, CMAA, you name it. And where I found that my best experiences always came were in the informal conversations with other peers and colleagues. And so Eddie had been on my radar for years to get me to be part of a Rex group. I trusted Eddie. I was able to get into a group that was of owners that were peers of mine, same kind of age, been in the industry for quite a while. And so I got into Rex too, and it's been a fantastic experience. We have a trio. We do meet 3 times a year for usually 3 to 4 days. We have trio groups where we break off and we meet often. I'm in a great trio, and it's just it's invaluable. I mean, I've gotten a lot better. As you all said, it's confidential exchange, it's brutally honest, and you get better when you have people that you trust and that are brutally honest with you. So my company is done extremely well because I've had great peers helping me along the way. So I love Rex.
I love that. Thanks so much for that. I think one of the reasons, and I met Eddie through Frank a couple of years, well, just recently, and Frank and I met a few years ago. And we started talking about the need for this in racket sports because of what is happening in the industry. And the industry is being redefined on a regular basis. Pickleball, as you can see, is about 24. It's probably closer to 30 million players now, which is related to now new facilities, independent facilities, franchises, adding courts to multi-sport health clubs. And then you have paddle coming in as well, which is now there's over 1,000, probably about 1,100 courts in the United States and over 1 million players. So it's changing the landscape. It's changing the physical structure of clubs and facilities. It's also changing the way we behave as far as how we manage people, recruit people. And then finally, it's managing our programming and how we relate to our consumers and our constituents. Is there a reason to come and play tennis and pickle and paddle and platform and other racket sports? And are we making a compelling argument? So as I talked more in depth with both Eddie and Frank about this, it came to me like I think this is something that is desperately needed in racket sports because you don't have that in-depth peer-to-peer conversation that you can have with somebody that is free of judgment, completely confidential, where you can just kind of help help each other out. And so I think that's what excites me the most about this. And with racket sports growing to almost a $7 billion industry, it's time for this, and it's also going to be highly appreciated, I think. Going back to some of the results that your Rex members have had, Eddie, this slide kind of highlights it, but do you want to talk through this, please?
Sure. So this is a 6-year window comparison. So we compared 2019 numbers to last year to 2025 at the end of the year to see how we're doing. And we knew everybody was coming back strong, but we didn't realize how strong they came back. So in that 6-year window, we're now 72% higher in EBITDA, not EBITDA of 72, but higher than what it was. Revenue is up 42%, dues growth over 200%, non-dues revenue 173%, retention is up substantially. So this just shows that we either have the smartest people in the world or we're helping them get smarter, a little bit of both. But they're all independent operators. We don't have the big national chains in there, and that's intentional. We want to help the independent clubs, whether you have one club or you have 20 clubs, become successful and be able to drive your business and go forward with it.
I think one key number here, Eddie, is that 173% on non-dues revenue, and that's where tennis and pickle and paddle really fall into. Talk about that core business, and then how your roundtables have helped that non-dues segment.
Well, I think what it comes down to is learning to focus on what matters. And as you grow your business, it's easy to get distracted. And one thing that the Rex Roundtables gives you the ability to do is work on your business, not in your business. We're all working in the business, and that's always a challenge because it's easy to get stuck in the mud. It's easy to get stuck in the business. But when you have a peer group that's holding you accountable, that's sharing financials with you or KPIs and questioning you and challenging you to get to that next level, that's where the difference comes in. And that refocus of non-dues revenue has come just because of that. They're realizing what the opportunity is on the racket sports side, and they're making sure that they're intentional about it. They're not just hoping that it goes.
I like that.
They're not ignoring it and saying, yeah, it's great if it goes up. If it doesn't, that's okay. We have dues. No, just the opposite. What we've learned that, in 2020, one of the economic lessons we learned as an industry is that, for lack of a better word, we got fat and lazy. There was a lot of creep on payroll, a lot of creep on programs that were not effective. And then when we had to reevaluate everything, because in 2019, you had 3 managers doing 3 jobs. Today, you got one manager doing 3 jobs. And that's where the refocus and really did make a big difference.
Yeah, I love that statement about work on the business, because we're always working in the business, but yeah, working on the business. Frank, maybe walk us through how the in-person experience with Rex has really helped you work on your business.
Yeah, well, one of the things that Eddie said, we definitely are working. I mean, it's 3 days of just working on your business. And my group, we always bring in subject matter experts. Each session, we talk about usually 1 or 2 meetings in advance that we're planning for. We're talking a year out. And so if we really want to drill down on a subject like programming, we bring in subject matter experts, and we'll spend half a day just all exchanging. I mean, you come out of there with all sorts of ideas, all sorts of level setting, all sorts of aha moments, and it just doesn't happen at a conference. And I still go to the HFA conference, and I still go to a lot of conferences, but this stuff doesn't happen. It's not one or the other. It's in addition to. This stuff happens at a high level focused group like this, and whether it's like you've got on your slide, talent development, investments, and we go through all of it, Brian. We talk about all of it. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and there's pretty much not a subject. Lately, it's been a lot of AI, and I've learned so much.
Sure.
So yeah, that's how it works.
Well, I think that's what's important about these 3 key areas, but also every other key area that the independent business owner is facing. And, obviously talent and staffing, especially in racket sports right now, we are trying to recruit more people to get in, and we also have people aging out. So that has always been will continue to be a critical factor. but the capital investment in the new facilities that I talked about earlier, adding pickle, adding padel, covering courts, things like that, and then new competition. That is a constant. And how do you guys talk much about competition in general, or more how you guys can separate? Where do those conversations go?
For me, we spend more time talking about how to separate.
Yeah, I like
I mean,
that.
there's some conversation. I mean, it's a small industry, and so we don't really talk too much about others, because our competition might be in another Rex group. We spend more time talking about how we need to delineate ourselves. So it's more about yourself versus others. Um, but yeah, that's really where our focus is, and just how to do a better job of spending your dollars smartly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and
well. Go
Brian,
ahead.
Brian, let me add this on the competition. So I believe my whole career that the biggest competition is inside your four walls.
Yep, that's
Okay.
good.
And I think what I mean by that is that, if you're doing everything right, you can't stop what's happening down the street a mile away. You can't change that if someone comes in with more courts, cheaper prices, whatever happens. But what you can do is you can control the talent you have on your team. You can control the quality of what you do, the customer service that you give. You can control your own marketing. If you do all those things well, then the competition has less of an impact. If you're not looking internally and you're only blaming outside your four walls, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, we don't do that. We have two sayings, Brian, in our group. We're always saying it: innovation and operational excellence.
I like that. There you go. And I think that's exactly right. And I think Steve Jobs said that pretty well with Apple is, if we keep chasing the dream and not the competition, we're going to be in good shape. Eddie, walk me through what actually happens, the tactical in a Rex meeting. What and how does this come about? How does the agenda work? Maybe walk through some of those details.
So typically we try and set the agenda a month before, based on feedback from the members. Sometimes we get a lot, sometimes it's like pulling teeth. But essentially the goal is that 70% of the agenda is driven by the members. 20 to 30% is driven by the Rex team. Now we'll focus on business updates. And like, for example, in my group, we have a business report with 7 different questions. They submit and share with each other ahead of each meeting. We'll focus on personal updates. Um, so they become like a second family to you. We look for $1 million nuggets, things that have worked, not theories that may work. Every group shares KPIs on different levels of whatever their comfort level is. Sometimes they pick one particular KPI and say, let's talk about this next meeting. I have 2 groups that share what I call insane KPIs. I have one that does a 52-page Excel file and has done that for probably 25 years. So I have better data in the fitness and health industry than anybody else in the business. And I can share those numbers anonymously.
Hmm.
And I have a second group that does a ridiculous Google Drive Excel file of like 15 pages. But the reality is everybody shares what they feel comfortable with. I have another roundtable that only shares one KPI per
Okay.
meeting. So wherever you're comfortable, that's what it's about. But it's about solving your challenges of businesses. We go visit. So we typically plan out a year to year and a half in advance. I know where I am all the way until February 2028 for my 3 groups. We visit each other's clubs. We schedule visits outside the industry to learn from other businesses and see what we can apply to do this. And then we help each other get better. I have Rex members that have literally flown across the country and spent a week with each other, just totally unannounced, not looking for credit for anything except just wanting to help the other person with whatever challenge they were dealing with at that time.
That's amazing. Talk about some of the great outside experiences the Rex Roundtables have had, and what the real takeaways are from these.
So this is a roundtable at Gettysburg. We've taken 70% of our groups to Gettysburg for leadership development, and not all of the learning happens in a conference room. So we learn, the military lessons, the business lessons, the club lessons, and how do you apply them? And there was a lot. And I'll give an example. I have a Rex member who's a former URSA board member and board chair, great guy, one of the smartest financial guys you'll ever meet in the industry. And he said, you got to be kidding me. I'm going to walk around a muddy field looking at statues. What am I going to learn? He's the guy that came back with 8 pages of notes.
I love that.
Okay. So there are lessons to be learned there. Once you go to the next one,
Yeah.
we've taken 5 groups. This is one of our groups with Brent here. This is the Young Guns group. we took them to Savannah Bananas, and we spent 14 hours behind the scenes with Jared, their president, who everybody knows Jesse, the man in the yellow suit. Jared's his business partner and actually runs the business side of it. And the marketing director, the HR director, and their ticket sales director, and learned how they create this culture, how they market it, how they hire, and a lot of great lessons from the Savannah Bananas. And yes, we went to a game as well, but the goal wasn't just going to the game.
Yep.
Uh, we've had 4 groups so far, and we have 3 going next year to the George Washington Leadership Institute down in Mount Vernon at his house, and we get a retired Rear Admiral to spend a day with us, teaching us leadership lessons from George Washington. So that's been really amazing, as good, if not better than Gettysburg on leadership lessons. So here's some of the 30 different things that we do as resources. We do 2 or 3 in each meeting, but the reality is we have tons of resources that we share for free to all the Rex members. So if you're looking to say, how come my team's not working together? We can share with you how to do a workshop for a half a day or 2 days on 5 dysfunctions of a team from Patrick Lencioni. Or if you're growing your business and you want to work with scaling up and Vern Harnish, we have all his resources and show you how other Rex members have used them to get your business to that next level, as well as Jim Collins, Great by Choice, and rifle shots and cannonballs, and a lot more than you're ever going to need. But here's the difference. When you go to a conference, you get sound bites. When you go to an online learning session of anything, and there's 12 chapters, everybody does chapter 3 together, whether you need that or not. You could be way ahead or behind that. In a Rex meeting, everything is customized. Think about it. It's no different than teaching someone racket sports. I'm not going to only focus on one part of your game. I've got to teach you the backhand as well as your forehand. You can't skip something, but everybody's at a different level, and you have to understand that strength to get you to better results. And that's kind of what we focus on with this.
Well, I think what's interesting here is, you go to a conference and, what's the retention of what you hear? 10,
yeah.
15, 20% maybe. And I think when you talk about, and Frank, in the depth that you've talked about, the quality of the conversations and the ongoing conversations in between the meetings, that retention rate has to be much, much higher. And tell me about this in your view, Frank. Do you always come away with, actionable takeaways and action items? Or is also some of this strategy that'll build for the future, or both?
100%. Yeah. I actually was just looking at because I was thinking about when our dates are, how far out we are. I was looking at my notes. Yeah, I keep a list of all my notes. I have tons of notes. And one of the things that's really great is the trio groups, as Eddie said, the follow-up groups. So we have these smaller groups within our group. We have a small group with 5. It's called a trio, but there's 5 of us. And we meet very regularly between meetings, and it's all follow-up on where we left off. So it's not like it's a one and done kind of thing. It's we continue, and we have goal setting. So we have personal and professional goal setting, as Eddie said. So we talk about our personal stuff and we talk about our professional stuff. And so there's ongoing follow-up, Brian.
That's great. And I also have to think, and I think I was just going to get into the uniqueness, and one thing that's not on here necessarily, and I'll let you talk about this, Eddie, is that accountability to each other. And it feels like in the conversations I've had and the experience I've had already with Rex, the accountability to each other in the group and to the overall Rex group is pretty impressive. And I think it's highly admirable. But Eddie, talk us through why else. What are those other unique points about Rex?
Well, I think it's the culture we strive to build and continue and encourage. It's that you learn to have a high level of trust. They really do become like a second family to you. For example, I have 3 guys that didn't know each other before 2009, and now they go on vacation together. I mean, you can't
that's
put
fantastic.
that, and that's only one small example of many. But, we want you present physically, mentally. You're sharing openly, honestly. You get a high level of trust. You generally show you care about each other. Like Frank said, everything stays confidential. But, when a Rex member needs help, we're there. Yesterday, the last 2 days, I sent out information about California lawsuits. Frivolous lawsuits are being filed against many businesses, including clubs, based on something that someone is claiming that you're not following the law on your website. And so there's frivolous lawsuits, and businesses are settling because this person knows you're going to settle. You're not going to go to court. But we found arguments that are protecting that. So the last 2 days, I've been sending all the data out to everybody. So they're not on the island by themselves. That's really important with Rex.
Yeah.
You know, when Hurricane Katie hit Houston a couple of years ago, we had 5 Rex members and we said, what do you need with all the floods? And they said, insurance will cover the business, but it's our frontline staff that's in tough spots. Many of them lost a lot. So we raised 50 grand in
Wow.
2 weeks. And we gave it to them the way they asked in $5 Walmart cards. So they could buy dishes, silverware, a microwave, whatever they needed to get back on. And 20,000 of that 50,000 came from Rex members that didn't have a fellow Rex member in Houston.
That's
They
great.
did it because they knew that's part of what we do is we help when help is needed.
You talked about working in the business and working on the business. I think this is really important in these 3 agendas of change. Walk us through this, Eddie.
So here's one thing to keep in mind. 90% of the decisions you're making already are probably really good. Where Rex makes a difference is that last 10%. So that last 10% where they challenge you, ask you to look at it in a different perspective, that's where it makes a difference in getting you there easier, less stress, less money, faster, whatever you're looking for. Okay. So think about it like a beach ball. So, you know, if we're both looking at a beach ball, Brian sees, you know, red, white, and yellow, and I see orange, red, and white. And that little difference could be the difference of getting there that last 10%. So with the 3 agendas, Brian, I don't know if you can blow this up a little.
Maybe.
Let's see.
There we go.
So the first agenda is everything operational. And this is where 90% of every manager and executive and owner spends. This has nothing to do with fitness or racket sports. This is the reality of any business. You spend all the time in operations, which is your marketing, your sales, your facilities, etc., your finance. That's the first agenda. You have to spend time there. But if you only stay there, you're vulnerable to competition of someone opening up bigger, cheaper, better location, whatever it is. The second agenda, which is really important. So if you find and spend time on your culture, on your structure, your staffing, your strategy, and your systems, then operations goes a lot smoother. The last agenda, the third agenda, is leadership development. So if we can develop smarter, better leaders in the roundtables and give them tools, more importantly, to develop better leaders back home, then the culture and strategy goes better, then the operations goes better. So when I do all 3 of those at a time, then that's where it can really make a difference. It's like you can't work only on one part of your racket game. You've got to work on many different facets of it.
Absolutely. So a couple payoff pitches and why Rex really does stand apart. It's certainly a board of peer consultants. You're not talking to competitors. The confidentiality you've talked about as well, and then the performance. And I think the overperformance and the over-indexing of Rex members versus others. This is the Rex team. These are all chairs. These chairs are all leaders of the roundtables. I'll be leading the Rex for Rackets roundtable, and I'm very, very excited about that. And then we're going to get into the next steps. And so, Eddie, walk us through how you actually get in to join one, and then we'll talk about costs in just a second.
So typically, we'll fill out an application online, as well as a commitment form to each other and some other data. We'll set up a phone Zoom interview, conversation with Brian and myself. Then go to the next slide, Brian. Then after that, what we'd like to do is once we have the initial group of the people that are seriously interested, we're going to set up a group Zoom call, like a prep call for an agenda on September 14th at 1 o'clock. The goal of that is to pick an in-person meeting near the end of October. We have a couple of dates tentatively locked in, and we'll most likely do it at someone's facility or in their town. And then we also have some tentative dates lined up for 2027 as well. And on the financial side, there's 3 parts of it. You have to budget 3 airfares, 6 hotel nights. We'll tell you to budget probably 2,000 to 2,200 is what the Rex members tell me the average spend is. The second part is a meeting and meals expenses. During the meetings, we'll pay for everything and split it up a week later. That'll typically average 600 to 1,000 a meeting. Frank's Roundtable spends more because they like to go outside and do more, and sometimes rent a bus to go see clubs and things like that. So they push the $1,000 mark a little more often. Most other Rex groups are about 800 a meeting. So another 2,000 or 2,500 a year on meeting and meals expenses. You pay for your own airfare. We reserve the hotel under a group block. We have one of the biggest hotel brokers in the country, so we get better rates. And the best part is the hotels pay them. We don't. You don't. And then your monthly dues are $7.99 a month. And to give you a comparison, if you join a mastermind group like Vistage, which is the biggest in the world, they've got about 40,000 roundtables. They're $2,500 to join and $1,800 a month to meet one day a month in person, which is great. About 20 of our members belong to Vistage, but they do that to network with business owners at a local level.
The community,
help
sure.
grow their brand at a local level. So that'll give you a quick comparison on the financials.
So I just wanted to close with a couple thoughts, and Frank, I wanted to get a final thought from you as well. But as you just showed that third agenda, which talked about leadership development, and I think about where racket sports is right now, it's at a crucial time period. Again, I mentioned as you have some professionals aging out, we need to bring new leadership and new leaders into the industry and talk to them about the promise and what a future career looks like. Frank, from your business, both as a consultant and in your business, how do you see leadership development and what you also know about racket sports? How do you see leadership development, and how do you see Rex really being a key role and cog in that?
I wish that there was a Rex group for racket sports when I was really just heavily focused on racket sports, not only just for understanding how to do a better job as a leader within my racket sports department, but also just really giving me an idea of where my career path could go and a way to develop. So I just think that what Rex is going to do for people that get into this, I think it's essential. It's the best move that I've made professionally from a professional development standpoint. It's what anyone that's listening to this session should jump into this, leap into it, take it on, lean into it, because you're going to learn in so many ways, and you're going to be uncomfortable in a good way and develop in a professional way. And I don't have anything to gain from this by being on this call, everybody. It's just I know how valuable it's been for me, and I'm a big believer in paying it forward. And so I really hope people jump in on this.
Thanks, Frank, and thanks for your time on the call today. Eddie, last and final thoughts from you?
Well, first I want to thank everybody for taking time to listen. Frank, I want to thank you for spending your time today, but also thank you for being a great Rex member and always supporting everybody in the group, because that's what makes Rex work. It's not one person, it's everybody helping each other. I'm excited to have Brian join our team. I've heard nothing but great things about his career in racket sports. And my motivation for doing this is really helping people and helping getting you to that next level. We've had a ton of success stories in Rex. We're happy to share some of them with you. Somebody who was almost bankrupt with their first club in 2009 today has 8 going to 12 clubs, is a dominant player in the market, and he gives all the credit to Rex and his peers. So there's a great opportunity here for you. We hope you take advantage of it. We're happy to talk and answer some questions. There's no pressure to join. This is something that once you get in, you'll say, why didn't I do this years ago? To Frank's point, I wish I had it when I started out in the industry as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys very much for this. I will be in touch with the people that were on the call as a follow-up, and those that weren't. We've recorded this and we'll share this recording as well. And we look forward to answering any questions or setting up additional calls later. Eddie, Frank, thank you guys so much. And for those of you watching, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you guys later. Bye.